The Sinister Secrets of the Cursed Regen Experiment, 50 Unexplainable Horrors Revealed. In the crumbling depths of Elmwood Heights, darkness has a name: Regen Industries. The old biotech firm, now a shadow of its former self, is rumored to harbor secrets that would make the bravest minds tremble. Jenna, a single mother barely scraping by, has just accepted a night shift there, following the recent loss of her teaching job. Desperation pushed her through the doors of that eerie place, but what awaited her inside was a taste of nightmares she never knew existed. The moment she stepped inside, a chill crept up Jenna's spine. The fluorescent lights flickered erratically, revealing faded posters advertising miraculous medical breakthroughs long abandoned. Strange sounds echoed off the cracked walls. Was that a whisper? Or just the wind weaving through shattered windows? She shuddered. Shadows clung to the corners, lurking with an unsettling presence. She brushed it off. She had bills to pay. Her son Tommy had started waking up screaming, blood-curdling nightmares spilling forth with every dawn. "Mom, I have a friend. He tells me things," he'd say wide-eyed, his dreams turning into a playground for his imagination. But what he described in trembling tones felt all too real: a figure lurking, whispering warnings, a sense of danger that made her heart race. Instead of comfort, it filled her with dread. The neighbors, those familiar faces, now wore expressions too hollow. Jenna tried sharing her fears, hoping for solidarity, but their eyes darted, whispers dying on their lips. Rumors of children gone missing, pulled into the dark abyss of Regen Industries, echoed in her mind like a fading siren-esque call. A collective silence settled, thick and heavy. Why wouldn't they talk? The weight of their secrets bore down on her, suffocating her hopes for safety. With each night, Jenna's ordeal intensified. She witnessed shadowy figures darting in and out of her field of vision during her shifts. She'd awake, panting, as guttural whispers clawed at her sanity. "Not safe, not safe," they seemed to chant, gnawing relentlessly on the edges of her consciousness. Her heart thundered against her ribs. Who can she trust? The very people she encountered day to day felt like potential threats now. Driven by the fear coursing through her veins, Jenna began piecing together the sinister history of Regen. She'd heard snippets, hushed conversations murmured over fences. Investigating the company's notorious experiments, she unearthed a legacy of suffering. Lives twisted, minds corrupted, all in the pursuit of something that should not be tampered with. Every revelation pushed her closer to a terrifying truth, yet wrapped in danger, the effect of her discoveries clawed at her. The dread was palpable one evening, an impending storm brewing as the sun dipped below the horizon. Jenna charged home, desperation lending strength to her legs and fear pushing her faster. She burst through the door to find Tommy frozen in place, his eyes wide with terror, seemingly entranced. Against the wall loomed a grotesque formation of shadows, writhing and shifting in ways that shouldn't be possible. "Mom, they're coming," he murmured, trembling. "They said we can't leave." A cold sweat broke over Jenna. The air thickened, suffocating her with fear as an ominous presence hovered just behind her, invisible yet palpably noticeable. The weight of her instincts screamed at her now. She had dared to look for truth, but at what cost? The shadows had emerged, and they were closing in. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The darkness whispered its sweet promises while the light faded. Gripped by terror, Jenna was caught fast between her home and the threats lurking just beyond the safety of her four walls. She needed to protect Tommy from the horrors lurking within and around them. But with shadows dancing before her eyes, she wondered, what horrors must she confront to shield her son from the dark legacy of Regen Industries? The shadows stretched wider, blacking out her once bright path, leaving her gasping for a way out. What waited for her in that suffocating darkness, and would she be too late? Jenna felt the air press in around her, thick and stifling, as the shadows inched closer. Panic surged as she gripped Tommy's hand, trying to anchor herself to reality. "We have to go," she whispered fiercely, her voice trembling as she scanned the room. But the very walls seemed to echo her fears, reverberating with a low hum that promised despair. Tommy's wide eyes flared with fear. "They're gonna take us," he cried, struggling against her grip. "We can't leave. They won't let us." His little voice shook her to her core, pulling her back from the brink. For a moment she hesitated, the child's innocence casting a light on her desperation. But then she heard it, a low, guttural growl emanating from the corner of the room where the shadows twisted like a living entity. Jenna's gut twisted as she forced herself to step forward, dragging Tommy with her. "We can't stay here. We have to find the door." The shadows surged and pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing nearer, warping the air between them. Images flashed in Jenna's mind, that company, the constant whisper of missing children, the abandoned experimentations. Were these the souls lost to Regan's dark grasp? Panic battled with resolve. She wasn't going to be just another name in a fading poster. Pushing Tommy behind her, she bolted for the door. Her heart raced, pounding like a drum in her ears. The chill rolling off the shadows sent tremors through her body. She could almost hear their taunts, whispered promises of what lay beyond the safety of her choice. "Stay. Join us." The air tasted metallic. Their breath, cold and empty, seemed to suffocate her sanity. She reached for the doorknob, praying it would turn. A slick perspiration coated her palms, but she twisted it with all her strength. The door wouldn't budge. "Damn it!" she hissed, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows laughed, or was that her own mind unraveling? In a flash of clarity, Jenna recalled the emergency exit she had noticed earlier in the building. "Tommy! This way!" She whirled around, racing toward the only hope she had left. As they ran, the whispers morphed into screams, raw and unrelenting. "You cannot escape! You belong to us!" The dimly lit hallway stretched before her, like the belly of a monster waiting to digest its prey. They sprinted, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the empty space. Every door they passed seemed to pulsate with a sinister energy, urging her to turn back, to join the shadows. "Mom! They're right behind us!" Tommy's voice rang clear and sharp, cutting through her panic. The shadows hissed at their heels, almost tangible now. Jenna pushed past the brink of exhaustion, her mind a flurry of terror and determination. "There! Just a little further!" She pointed towards the flicker of a red exit sign at the end of the corridor. Her feet barely touched the ground as they raced, but the door seemed unreal, a mere illusion mocking their reality. With every step, Jenna could feel them hunting her, hatred boiling in the ether. The shadows lunged, an amorphous wave reaching toward them, hungry for the warmth of their flesh. Just as she thought hope was lost, she lunged for the exit with Tommy in her arms, flinging the door open as dim light spilled into the hall. But the light felt wrong. It painted the world in unnatural shades, revealing grotesque shapes lurking just beyond the threshold, dark figures watching with hollow eyes. Jenna gasped as the realization crashed over her. The other side of the door wasn't safety, but another layer of horror. "We can't go out there!" she screamed, pulling back as Tommy thrashed in her arms. But shadows were closing in around them, waiting, watching. "We're coming for you," they whispered. Was there no escape? Jenna's heart sank into the pit of her stomach. The darkness laughed, inviting her deeper into despair. Every piece of knowledge she had uncovered about Regan had led her here. What could she do now? She felt the ground vibrating beneath them now, moving with a life of its own. The exit began to shimmer and distort. The walls of the corridor pulsed as if breathing. What awaited her on the other side? With nowhere left to run, Jenna turned back. "Tommy! We need to fight," she said, choking back tears. Could they really face the very shadows that sought to consume them? Would she sacrifice her own sanity to protect her son? As the shadows lunged, Jenna braced herself, determined to stand her ground. What she would uncover in this battle against darkened forces was yet to be revealed. But as the shadows encroached, one truth stood firm in her mind. They were going to find out what Regen's secrets truly were, even if it killed them. Was there still a chance for survival, or would the darkness consume everything she held dear? The shadows pulsated, closing in from every corner as Jenna fought back the surge of terror flooding her mind. "Hold on tight," she yelled, gripping Tommy's small frame. With adrenaline pumping through her veins, she spun them both away from the exit, dodging the dark forms that writhed toward them. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears like a warning bell, urging her not to falter. "Mom!" Tommy shrieked, his voice not just laced with fear but now tinged with an emerging realization. "They're here for something for us." "No!" she shouted back, desperation reaching a boiling point. "We're not going to be part of their game." Her eyes darted down the corridor, searching for any glimmer of hope. The emergency exit flickered mockingly, a portal to further horror. But then, just at the corner of her vision, she saw something, a faint light seeping through the crack of a door slightly ajar at the end of the hall. It was wedged between two monstrous shadows, pulsing like a heartbeat. For a moment, she felt hope crack through her despair. "Tommy, there!" She pointed, clutching him tightly as they made a break for it. But as they ran, the shadows howled, a cacophony of rage that vibrated through her bones. "You will not escape!" they screamed, their voices intertwining to form a haunting chorus. Every syllable dripped with malice, chilling Jenna to her core. "We can't stop." She pushed forward, each step a battle against the invisible weight of darkness trying to pull them back. The grotesque forms flickered in and out of existence, almost teasingly close yet impossibly far. As they neared the door, the whispering grew unbearable, morphing into twisted laughter. "Mom, I can't breathe." Tommy wheezed, clutching his chest, his small body trembling against hers. Panic swept through Jenna. She pushed onward, not allowing herself to look back, even as the whispers began to splinter into distinct cries of familiar voices. People she thought she had lost to time, to fate, now echoed through the hallway. "Jenna," they called softly, languid and sweet like a siren's song. It felt both inviting and sinister, clawing at her resolve with clawed fingers. "Join us, it's safer, come home." It shattered her focus. The cries bounced between her ears like scattered glass shards. "No!" she screamed, shaking her head violently. She couldn't let them seep into her mind. It wasn't safe. "Mom!" Tommy's voice cracked through the suffocating sounds, grounding her just enough to take another step. They were at the door now, light pouring through the gap like molten gold. "Not safe. Not safe." Jenna pushed it open, and the hinges screamed as the door swung wide. Light flooded into the dark corridor, an overwhelming contrast to the shadows pressing in around them. But what was beyond the door? It was a room, a chamber brightly lit yet filled with an unsettling energy that sent a shiver down her spine. Strange machines lined the walls, their screens casting eerie glows that flickered with both light and darkness. Tommy's breath caught in his throat as they both took a step inside. "What is this place?" Before Jenna could answer, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. The shadows reached through the cracks, elongating like hungry fingers desperate to reclaim their prey. "You can't hide," they rasped. "You belong to us. Tommy, stay close." Panic surged anew. The machines began beeping, lights flashing like an emergency, shadows flickering within the light. Symbols and diagrams spun across the screens, revealing horrific images of faded smiles and blank eyes. This must be it," Jenna gasped, stepping back as realization struck hard. "The experiments. This is what they did to them." The walls pulsated again. It felt alive, an ancient presence mixing with the sterile technology. The shadows converged, pressing in around them, and for the first time, Jenna could see faces within the darkness, faces of lost children, eyes wide with terror and pleading for help. Breathless, Jenna turned to Tommy, his face pale and eyes brimming with fear. "We need to find a way out. Now." But before she could move, the screens flickered wildly, distorting images into horrific shapes and flashing words, Awaken them. As the shadows twisted and contorted in front of them, Jenna felt the ground tremble. Awaken what? She whispered, horror dawning on her. Then, with a rush of wind and a cacophony of voices joining as one, shadows surged forward, and Jenna's scream was swallowed in darkness. What did it mean to awaken those lost to despair? And more terrifyingly, would they even want to be awakened? Jenna's heart raced as the darkness enveloped them, the shadows writhing and merging into a monstrous wave. Desperation clawed at her throat, the overwhelming stench of decay mixing with the sterile scent of the machines. Light flickered ominously, creating an erratic dance across the walls, and the whispers grew louder, intertwining with the frantic beeping of the screens. Tommy! She gasped, spinning back toward her son. His small body quivered, eyes wide with confusion and fear. We have to, but before she could finish, the room plunged into chilling silence. The lights dimmed further, casting grotesque shadows that contorted into ghastly shapes, as if the very walls were swallowing their voices. Awaken them, the phrase echoed around them, a sinister chant that pierced through the stillness. Jenna shuddered, the weight of dread settling heavily on her shoulders. What did they mean by that? A new sound emerged, a low, droning hum that reverberated through the chamber. The machines sprang to life, whirring and clicking with an unsettling rhythm, as the screens erupted with images that made her stomach churn. Faces of children from photographs long faded, smiles twisted into expressions of terror, flashed before her eyes. Each face seemed to call out, their mouths moving in unison, forming words she could not hear, but felt deep in her bones. What is happening? Tommy whimpered, retreating closer to Jenna, clutching her hand tightly. She could feel his small fingers trembling, and it broke her heart to see him so scared. I don't know, she said through clenched teeth, forcing out a brave facade. We need to stay strong. As she spoke, Jenna felt a surge of anger rise within her. They wouldn't give in. They wouldn't let whatever lurked in the shadows take them. Suddenly, a blinding light flared from the center of the room, illuminating a figure shrouded in dark mist. It emerged slowly, features obscured, but Jenna could discern wisps of hair, eyes that gleamed like dying stars, and a mouth that twisted into a pale, mocking grin. Join us, it whispered, voice dripping with malice, and it reached forward with skeletal fingers that seemed to stretch eternally. No! Jenna cried, pulling Tommy closer. As if responding to her defiance, the figure flickered, momentarily revealing a glimpse of what had once been a childlike Tommy, lost in the torment of the shadows. Then the figure was gone, swallowed back into the blackness, but its whisper remained. The screens started again, each flicker distorting reality. Join us. Awaken. Remember, the words rushed forth in a wave of demonic energy that made Jenna's skin crawl. She felt visions begin to invade her mind, memories she couldn't claim, whispers of familiarity that felt wrong and twisted, all intertwined with her cries, her nightmares. Mom, please, Tommy begged, eyes bright with unshed tears, pulling at the sleeve of her shirt. I don't want to be here, I know, baby, she said softly, though her heart pounded with new terror. We'll find a way out. I promise. With resolve, she turned back to the machines. Maybe there was a clue, a way to understand what they were dealing with. As Jenna approached the nearest screen, it flashed violently, revealing a cryptic message that sent chills down her spine. Surrender to the process. The past awaits. There was a moment of stillness, a heartbeat where the world seemed to stop. And then, the shadows surged forward, racing across the floor, reaching out to reclaim their prize. Jenna's instincts kicked in, and she grabbed Tommy, sprinting away from the advancing darkness. But was it an escape, or merely a different kind of trap? As they raced toward another door that loomed at the opposite end of the room, the shadows howled, a feral cry that promised no mercy. And Jenna's mind raced with the chilling possibility, if the lost could be awakened, what horrors awaited them should they succeed? The door swung wide, revealing a dark abyss beyond. For a moment, Jenna hesitated, the dread pooling in her stomach. What lay on the other side, hope or eternal torment? And in that moment she knew one thing, whatever they were running from had truly only just begun. Jenna bolted through the door, dragging Tommy behind her. The chill from the shadows did not relent, biting at their heels as they plunged into the unknown. The darkness here was alive, swirling around them, pressing against their skin like a living entity that sought to consume them whole. "Mom! Where are we?" Tommy's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "Just keep moving," Jenna urged, the panic rising in her throat. The darkness thickened. It felt as if hands were reaching out to ensnare them. The air thickened with a musty odor, like old paper and rusted metal. Each breath tasted heavy and stale. They stumbled deeper into the void, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the overwhelming silence. Shapes loomed in the shadows, indistinct and shapeless, but Jenna could feel their gaze on her, chilling her to the core. Every fiber in her being screamed to turn back, but she pressed on, her grip on Tommy tightening. Suddenly, a flash of light burst forth, illuminating a corridor lined with doors. Each door bore a number, and each number flickered in and out like a dying star. Jenna's heart pounded as she scanned them, drawn to the eerie glow of the last door at the end of the hall 13. "Mom, don't!" Tommy cried, but it was too late. Jenna was already moving toward it, the air around her electrified with an unsettling energy, as if the door itself was breathing. She pushed it open, and it creaked wide, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with dread. An altar sat at the center, adorned with strange symbols and surrounded by jars filled with dark, murky liquids. She felt a compelling force pulling her closer. "What is this place?" Jenna murmured, stepping inside cautiously. The whispers returned, now clearer, layered, as if 100 voices were chanting in unison, luring her into the heartbeat of the nightmare. "Awaken them, awaken!" Tommy grabbed her arm, his eyes wide and terrified. "I don't like this, Mom! We need to go!" But Jenna was drawn to the jars. Shapes twisted and turned inside the liquid, faint images barely recognizable but painfully familiar. A flash, a boy with bright eyes and a happy smile, then the echo of laughter, slipping away into silence. Her heart raced as horror clawed at her mind. "What have they done to them?" she whispered, feeling the cold grip of realization. Each child was lost, trapped in this twisted world, victims of some dark experiment that sought to reclaim their very essence. Then, the air in the room thickened, and with it, the shadows crept around the edges of her vision, coalescing into forms. She turned sharply, heart racing, as figures began to emerge from the darkness. Children, their faces a blend of terror and despair. They reached out with hands that seemed to dissolve into mist. "Join us," they cried, voices blending into a haunting melody that beckoned, pulling her mind toward the brink of madness. Jenna staggered back, eyes wide. "No!" she screamed, yanking Tommy against her as the shadows surged forward. The children's faces twisted in anguish, their hollow eyes piercing her soul. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, overwhelmed by the encroaching darkness. "Awaken. Remember." The voices turned into a cacophony, each word slicing through the already thin veil of her sanity. She felt Tommy shake beside her, his small frame trembling against her. "Mom! Help!" he shouted, desperation spilling from his voice. Jenna could barely breathe as dread washed over her. She was losing him, losing herself in this nightmarish abyss. The weight of the voices grew heavier, suffocating. Without thinking, Jenna grabbed Tommy's hand and sprinted toward the door, the haunting words echoing in her ears, tightening their grip around her mind. But as they reached the threshold, an unseen force slammed the door shut with a thunderous crash, leaving them trapped. "Now we awaken!" the children howled, the darkness closing in like a hungry predator. Jenna's resolve hardened. They would not become a part of this twisted reality. Gritting her teeth, she turned to face the swarm of shadows. "No more!" she yelled, allowing every ounce of love for Tommy to ignite a fierce fire within her. But the resistance came at a price. Could her defiance hold against the overwhelming pull of the abyss? In that moment of desperate courage, a chilling realization dawned. Sometimes confronting the darkness only deepens its hold. And as shadows loomed ever closer, Jenna could only hope that she had the strength to fight back before it was too late. Jenna stood frozen, clutching Tommy's hand, as the shadows danced closer, flickering like dying embers. The cries of the lost children filled the air, a discordant song that gnawed at her sanity. She could see their faces twisting in anguish, eyes filled with a yearning for release, a release that she could not grant. "Mom," Tommy whimpered, squeezing her fingers. His voice was barely a whisper, yet it felt like a shout in the suffocating silence. She glanced down at him, his face pale and ghostly in the dim light, and a wave of guilt washed over her. She was dragging him into this nightmare. Desperate, Jenna's mind raced. She had to do something. "We can't give in! We're stronger than this!" she shouted, hoping her words would pierce through the suffocating fog. Yet, even as she spoke, doubt curled in the pit of her stomach, teasing her with thoughts of surrender. Then, abruptly, the whispering stopped, the oppressive silence falling heavier than before. Suddenly, the door behind them morphed, twisting into an impenetrable wall, solid and cruel. No escape. Jenna's breath quickened as the faces of the children began to solidify, becoming more defined, more real. Each figure bore a haunting likeness to Tommy's carefree smile. "Tommy! Remember the stories I told you? The ones about bravery?" She forced the words out, struggling to mask the tremor in her voice. "We have to remember who we are." But he shook his head vigorously, his wide eyes filled with tears. "I just want to go home." "Then think of home." She felt the warmth of her son's hand slipping from hers as shadows clawed at his feet. "Focus. Picture us together. Our home. We will break out of here, I swear." In that moment of desperation, the chanting returned, louder and more insistent, a frantic chorus. "Remember. Give in. Awaken." The urgency of their words made Jenna's stomach churn. Tommy fell to his knees, eyes glassy as he stared at the figures, oblivious, welcoming the darkness that offered no solace. "Mom, I see them. They're calling me." "No!" Jenna yelled, panic clawing its way up her throat. She couldn't lose him. "Listen to me. Fight it. We are together." But Tommy's gaze was locked on the shadows, longing etched into his features. The shadows surged forward, tendrils reaching out like serpents. Jenna's heart thundered, each beat echoing with desperation. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward, filled with a fierce determination. "Stay with me." With every ounce of willpower, she focused on the light that escaped from the crack under the door, vivid and tantalizing. "You're my son, my Tommy! We will break free. They are nothing but lies." But as the shadows lunged, enveloping her first, she felt their cold essence seep into her skin. Despair threatened to drown her as the voices multiplied, their tones starting to blend into one, a haunting crescendo that reverberated through her bones. Then, without warning, the altar in the center pulsed, sending a shiver of energy through the room. An otherworldly light erupted, casting the shadows into frenzied chaos. For a brief moment, everything paused, and Jenna felt a surge of power rush through her veins. In that instant, she glimpsed the souls trapped in those jars. They were screaming for release, screams that collided with Tommy's hollow stare. Just as quickly, the energy faded, and she could see it. A flicker of hope danced in the corner of the room. A door, the one behind the altar, swung slightly ajar, revealing a blinding glare. "Tommy, now!" Jenna screamed, pulling him to his feet. But as they rushed toward the light, the children's cries shifted into laughter, a sound all too familiar yet grotesque. "You can't escape. You belong with us." Would they reach the door before the darkness swallowed them whole? As they dashed forward, shadows clawed at their heels, desperate to pull them back into the void. In that last desperate moment, with the pull of the abyss threatening to drag them down, she felt it, a sharp tug at her heart, a question that loomed in the air: would they be consumed by the darkness, or would they find salvation in the light? The door beckoned like a siren. But was it truly an escape or a deeper descent into horror? Jenna sprinted forward, heart racing, the light from the door growing brighter, more ethereal with each step. But the laughter of the children echoed around her, sinister and mocking. "You belong with us," they taunted, their voices weaving together to create an almost tangible net of despair. "Tommy, Hold on to me! Jenna yelled, her grip tightening around his hand. Fear surged, flooding her nerves with adrenaline. With each stride, the shadows receded slightly, as if the brightness called them back. She glanced at the altar behind them, the jars trembling, filled with tiny faces that twisted in agony. They were alive. They were aware. A bolt of terror shot through her. Could they be saved? Or were they too far gone? But there was no time. The darkness surged again, slick and hungry, pooling at her feet. Tommy stumbled, gasping, feet dragging as he began to slip from her grasp. Mom! I can't, don't let go! The desperation in her voice cracked like glass. The door was so close, it spurred her into action. The shadows rippled with malicious intent, tendrils reaching out as if alive, eager to reclaim the warmth being dragged toward the now gaping light. The room seemed to respond to her will, swirling into chaos. A heavy mist rose from the ground, wrapping around her like a shroud, hungry to extinguish the light she clung to. Keep running! Just a few more steps. She could feel Tommy's strength fading, his small body buckling beneath the weight of darkness and despair. Jenna felt the pressure around her, a grip tightening on her throat, squeezing the breath from her lungs. Each beat of her heart grew louder, drowning out the children's cries, hammering in rhythm with her own pulse. Without looking back, she pushed through the oppressive atmosphere, every fiber in her being screaming against the claws of the shadows. Suddenly, she reached the edge of the doorway, the light pouring out like molten gold. It felt warm, inviting, unlike anything she had known in this cursed place. Tommy! She called again, and with a surge of desperation, she yanked him into the light. As they crossed the threshold, Jenna felt an explosion of sensation. It struck like a flame igniting within her a warmth that chased away the chill that had seeped into her bones. But the relief was short-lived. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud, echoing inside her mind like a finality she couldn't comprehend. They stood in a vast expanse now, a foggy field stretching as far as the eye could see. It was eerily serene, the calm contrasting sharply with the chaos they had escaped. But as Jenna turned to Tommy, her stomach dropped. His expression had changed. The fear and confusion were gone, replaced by an unsettling calm. His eyes, once vibrant, seemed dull, vacant. "Mom?" he said, voice soft but devoid of the mirth she knew. "I think I want to stay here." A chill went down Jenna's spine. "What do you mean?" "We need to find a way back." "Back?" His face twisted, lips curling into a slow, unfurling smile. "But we belong here now. Don't you see? This is where they wanted us." Jenna's heart raced anew. The shadows had followed them. They had tricked her, found a way through. The realization settled heavily around her, enveloping her like a shroud. She backed away, breath quickening, desperation clawing at her throat. "No! Tommy, fight it! Remember who you are!" But his laughter echoed across the field, light and airy, yet that familiar malicious edge lingered. The landscape twisted, darkening, the fog thickening around them. Figures began to emerge in the mist, their shapes familiar yet grotesque, but this time there were more, an army of lost souls against the horizon, rising as if summoned by his words. "No!" Jenna screamed, stumbling back as the fog tightened around her, suffocating, wrapping her in a chilling embrace. "Tommy, please!" As the faces of children etched in horror began to close in, Jenna felt the encroaching darkness seep back into her, its icy fingers reaching for her heart once more. Would Tommy truly abandon her, or was there a glimmer of hope left in his eyes? And how many figures were waiting to claim their next victim, eager to weave their lives into the fabric of despair? In a world so sick with loss, could she still find a way to rescue her son before it was too late? Jenna stumbled backward, her breath hitching painfully in her throat. The fog wrapped around her like a cold, iron shroud. Shadows flickered in and out of view, faces blending with the mist, whispering her name in hollow tones. "Jenna, join us!" A chorus of lost children beckoned, their voices a haunting melody that struck at her core. "Tommy!" She screamed again, forcing herself to look at her son, who now made no attempt to confront the encircling darkness. His smile stretched unnaturally wide, a mask crafted in madness. The innocence she clutched so tightly was slipping away, devoured by the very mist that loomed closer, eager to engulf her in despair. With grinding teeth and trembling hands, Jenna took a step forward, urging him to snap out of it. "You don't belong here. Fight it, sweetheart. Fight them." But he didn't respond. Instead, he turned and waved at the shadows, as if welcoming them home. "They are my friends now, Mom. They like me, they want me to stay." The air thickened with sorrow, a heavy weight pressing down on her chest. The fog thickened, distorting the shapes around her. There were parents lost to grief, children who had been taken and never returned. "They won't let us go," came a whimper from the shadows. "Once you're theirs, you can't escape." Jenna's heart pounded wildly. "No! You're wrong! I won't lose him to you." But each word felt like a drop in a vast ocean of futility. The dogged laughter echoed around her, slithering through her mind, urging her to give up. The figures began to dance, a nightmarish waltz that spiraled in and out of sight, flashing glimpses of sorrowful faces that pleaded for her help even as they gripped her son's shoulders. "Tommy!" Her voice took on a desperate, ragged edge. "Please remember the games we used to play? The stories we read together? Fight it!" He turned back to her, that unsettling calm still tinging his features. "But I don't want to fight anymore, Mom. It's nice here. You should just let go." A sickening feeling coiled within her. The mist churned, wisps of shadow reaching out, whispering promises of comfort and acceptance that chilled her bones. They were closing in, eager to consume her, the last flame of resistance that dared to challenge their reign. The darkness gripped her throat, squeezing until her voice grew faint. The world around her swayed like a distorted dream, plunging deeper into torment. What was real? What was an illusion? She felt the weight of despair settling into her bones, an unbearable pressure threatening to extinguish her will. "Let us play." Tommy's voice rang out, cheerful, childlike. It was jarring against the backdrop of terror and fear. She fought back tears, desperately grasping the memory of who he was, who he still could be. "I'm coming, Tommy. I won't leave you." She lunged, but the mist engulfed her, dragging her toward the throng of lost souls. "Fight back!" Suddenly she felt the cold fingers of countless hands wrap around her. They didn't want her to possess her child. They desired to consume her entirely. The mist thickened, the laughter crescendoing into a shrill chant that echoed in her ears. "You can't escape us. You're one of us." In that moment, Jenna's resolve hardened. She forced herself to remember, to hold on to the light within her. "I will not let you take him," she shouted, the strength of a mother's love igniting a fire within her. But just as a crack of bright light flickered through the fog, the figures hissed. "You believe you can resist? This is where you belong." As the fog swirled dangerously, the world seemed to shift beneath her feet. A dark scream of command erupted through the mist. "Tommy!" she cried, reaching out again, but the shadows pushed her back, dragging her further into their twisted embrace. What was the cost of losing him? Could she even save him before it was too late? The ground trembled, and cracks of light shimmered. Was there truly a way out, or would they both be trapped in eternal shadows? Just as Jenna felt herself being pulled deeper into their abyss, a fleeting thought crossed her mind. If she fought hard enough, perhaps she could even expose the truth hidden within this malevolent dream. Could she gather the strength to reclaim not only her son's spirit, but her own as well? Or was the depth of despair too consuming to escape? Jenna's heart raced, each beat echoing against the oppressive silence. The fog pulsed around her, a living entity eager to devour. She clawed at the air, battling the darkness with every ounce of her strength, but it felt like trying to grasp water. "Tommy!" she screamed into the void, her voice barely a whisper against the cacophony of mocking laughter. The presence around her seemed to tighten, the shadows writhing with malicious intent. She could almost hear their thoughts, tangled whispers turning into a chaotic symphony of despair. "Just let go, Jenna, just give in," came a voice, eerily familiar. It slithered around her, taunting and seductive. She knew it well, the tone of comfort that could only belong to the mist. Her own desperation reflected back at her. "Stop!" she shouted, though her resolve began to falter. The figures that danced nearby momentarily shifted, allowing a glimpse of their sorrowful faces. Each one told a story of agony and regret, children and parents bound to the shadows. "They are trapped like you," the voices chorused, their hollow sounds echoing in the fog. "Join us, just let go." Jenna squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the darkness creeping into her thoughts. Memories flooded her mind unbidden, the laughter of sunny days, the soft warmth of her son's embrace. Each memory ignited a spark deep within her. "Not now! Please stay with me, Tommy!" She reached out, desperate fingers grasping in the thick air. Suddenly, Tommy appeared amidst the chaos, his face flickering like a candle in the wind. "Mom?" His voice had lost its cheer, replaced by a tone drenched in fear. "Help me!" The sight sent a fresh wave of horror rolling through her. "I'm coming, baby!" Jenna lunged toward him, forcing her body against the sea of shadows. A cold grip tightened around her ankle. "No! Let go!" she screamed, pain lancing through her as the mist clawed at her skin. "Tommy!" The depths of her heart reverberated the cry, fueling her determination. She tore free from the shadows, and in that splinter of light she saw her reflection, a distorted image of a woman on the brink of despair. The shadows hissed, their breath cold against her cheek. "You dare resist?" they spat. "This is your rightful place." "No!" she roared, anger igniting the light inside her once more. "I won't let you take him." As if sensing her refusal, the fog thickened, swirling violently. It began to illuminate glimpses of a fractured world, a realm stitched between life and death, a place that felt terrifyingly familiar. Jenna strained against the hands pulling her back. "I want to yield." "Tommy!" she cried, finding him again amidst the whirlpool of darkness. His innocence was slipping, a tendril of fog wrapping around his small frame, choking the light she once saw in his eyes. Jenna's breath quickened, panic flooding her veins. "Hold on. I'm right here. Remember our adventures? Remember astronauts and dragons?" In that moment, Tommy blinked, confusion lacing his features. "I'm scared," he whimpered, and in that fragility, Jenna felt the shadow's grip loosen slightly. "Together, fight it!" she urged. "You're stronger than this. You are my son!" The shadows writhed, their form twisting violently. "No, he is ours. He belongs to the mist!" they roared, a cacophony of resentful wails. And then it happened, a single fleeting moment that stretched time, where the fog recoiled, and Jenna saw the path forward, a flickering light in the dreamlike nightmare. But would she reach it before they pulled her down for good? "Wake up, Tommy! Wake up!" she shouted, determination coursing through her. The darkness surged one last time, and Jenna felt the entire world tilt. Would this be her last stand, or was it the spark of liberation? Then she noticed something, a shadow behind Tommy, more distinct than the others. It loomed large, its intentions ominous. Jenna's breath hitched. Was there more behind the fog than just despair? What nightmare awaited them both next? Jenna felt the ground beneath her tremble, a low rumble of anger resonating from the very shadows that had taunted her all this time. They burrowed deeper into her soul, threatening to consume her whole. But she had no room left for fear. She turned to Tommy, his face a mix of confusion and fear, caught in a delicate balance that swung precariously toward darkness. "Tommy, stay with me!" she shouted, her voice echoing against the depths of the fog. The very air felt alive with unease, vibrating with the whispers of the lost. "You have to fight. We are stronger than this." His eyes flickered, and for a brief moment, she saw the flickering light of recognition. "Mom?" It's so dark, his small body shook, the tendrils of the fog wrapping tighter around him, fighting to keep him from her grasp. "No, don't let them win." Jenna reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek. It felt like ice against warm skin. "You need to remember the stories. Remember us. She firmly pressed her palm on his chest, wishing to infuse him with the love and strength she felt burning inside her. The shadows hissed, their whispers morphing into howls, a cacophony of jeers that sought to drown out her voice. "He is ours, and he will forget you!" they screeched, pushing against the pretty memory she conjured, threatening to tear apart the bond they had with every ounce of darkness surrounding them. But Jenna would not be undone. "Tommy!" she yelled, digging deep into her strength. "Remember! We're a team. We climb mountains together. We play and laugh in the sun. We fight against the darkness. Remember everything we've been through." Tommy's eyes widened, a flicker of light sparking within them. "The dragon. We fought the dragon." His voice trembled but held a hint of joy, a hint of hope. "Yes. Together. Just like that. We are brave, stronger than they could ever know." Jenna saw his grip on the shadows fade just a little as he squared his shoulders, drawing on the power of their shared moments. In that brief moment of clarity, the chaotic fog split just enough for Jenna to lunge forward again, pulling Tommy from the grasp of despair. "Come on! Let us go!" she shouted, her feet pounding against the ground as the shadows recoiled, furious that their prey was slipping away. With every step, Jenna felt the light surge stronger around her. "We're breaking free!" she screamed, and with that triumphant fervor, the darkness shrieked, the anguished cries of lost children dragon-sounding looking for a home. They surged forward, hand in hand, the light ahead growing brighter, filling the void piece by piece, banishing shadows that once felt insurmountable. Jenna glanced back, catching glimpses of the faces twisted in anguish, but she kept running, heart pounding like thunder in her chest. The further they went, the brighter the path became, drenched in golden light. "Mom!" Tommy cried as they neared a shimmering portal, the following shadows gnashing their teeth, desperate to reclaim what they'd lost. "We'll be okay," Jenna reassured fiercely. "We'll be home soon." And just as they felt the pulse of shadows behind them, she burst through, pulling Tommy along as the light exploded around them. Suddenly, they were enveloped in a warmth that washed away the chill that had gripped their hearts for too long. Breathless, Jenna fell to her knees, clutching Tommy close as the sunlight dappled over their faces. They were on grassy ground, the scent of fresh blooms tickling her nose. Joy surged within her, vibrant and alive, far removed from the hell they had just escaped. "Look, Mom!" Tommy exclaimed, eyes alight. "We're back!" He jumped up, dancing in the sunlight, as Jenna wiped away tears, her heart swelling with relief. Yet deep down, she knew shadows still lurked, just beyond the fragile veil they had torn through. But as she watched her son play, laughter echoing around her, she felt strength course through her veins. The shadows may try to come again, but she would be ready. "We've got a lot of stories to tell," she whispered, squeezing Tommy's hand. "And adventures to have. You and me, always." They had escaped the darkness, but now the fight had just begun. In time, she would unearth the truth of the Regen shadows and their victims, shedding light onto the sinister secrets they struggled to hide. As they walked away from that place, Jenna felt a fierce wave of determination. She'd start with the truth and bring hope to those still lost. Together, they could conquer anything, together. And as Jenna breathed deeply, soaking in the warmth of the sun, she knew for certain, they were free, for now. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section below with your reactions, theories, and thoughts about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.